this is Gayle with BERNINA of Naperville, and welcome to our Fat Quarter Club. And it's August, and we have a new machine here. That is no secret, the new BERNINA 990. And I kind of always say new machine, new stitch book, right? So we wanted to take a little blast back to when we made this little stitch workbook using our fun Valentine's kitties and things like that. So in the description of this video, there's going to be a link to a presentation deck. And that presentation deck is really valuable because it has a lot of other fun links, tips, tricks for sewing on any BERNINA, whether you're doing combination stitch, you're adding triple stitch, you're playing with some stuff, you're going to want to make sure that you download that PDF, especially for those of you that may not have a 990 ever or yet, right? So I played around a little bit with some of the features that I just thought were really cool to show you, and I put together this stitch book. The last stitch book that we made was like cards that were done on Peltex, and you just added them to a ring as you had more stuff. That's fine too, but I thought maybe you'd want like a soft book of some kind like this, so I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to play with jumbo stitch, stitch combinations, mirror, adding triple stitch effects, and just basically seeing what the stitches look like. So don't forget, I'm not kidding around. You can do a lot of these features with your current BERNINA, so just relax and sit tight, right? But come on, give us a chance to play with the new toy. So this month, our Fat Quarter Club consists of these cute selections that, we kind of handpicked them ourselves. We've got retro TVs, we've got yellow ledger paper, some graph paper, and then some other little bits. And I thought the pastel-y things kind of go along with what I do, or what I want to do this month, to create a new stitch book. So with a new machine like the BERNINA 990 comes some new playtime and experimenting. And I thought this is a good time to kind of revamp and kind of approach a stitch book in a little bit of a different way. So some of you might kind of think of a stitch book as something that looks like this, where you just do row and row and row of stitches, and then you have like some of these. And, we can write in our little stitch numbers right here with our Micron Pigma pen and, to keep track and whatever. But I think we can do something a little bit more fun with this. We're going to put these aside and keep them, of course, but we did, a couple years ago, we did a stitch book, and we did it like little individual note cards. And we had this cute Valentine's Day fabric that we used, and we mounted it on a little ring binder like this so that we could add to stuff. We could work along with it as we go, and that's fine. But I wanted to make something different this month. So hang on, and I'll show you in just a moment. But the first thing that I want to tell you, why do I want to do a stitch book, and how do I plan on approaching this stitch book? Well, I made a lot of ideas, and one of them kind of revolves around some of the decorative stitches and features that we can do on our new BERNINA 990. So the first and foremost thing that people have been talking about with this machine is the jumbo stitch feature. So this was the heart stitch at face value. It's a multi-direction stitch. This one is the one that is kind of like, I think this was 200% larger, and then this one was 500% larger, or something like that. We'll play around at the machine. But then I wanted to stitch them out to really give a visual of how large these stitches can be, and how maybe we can even translate some of these stitches into quilting stitches, correct? Right? Then I thought, let's do something similar with our unicorns, because here it is at face value. There we added triple stitch. Now that's a feature that we get not just on our BERNINA 990, but it is on many of our machines, starting with our BERNINA 570 Quilters Edition. This is jumbo stitch. This is jumbo with triple. And then this is a tiny stitch, only 9 millimeters, right? That I did 500% on. And look how big that is. And we have lots of other ideas for classes as far as this little guy is concerned. So a lot of times when I'm thinking about an idea book, a stitch book, a dream book, a stitch journal, whatever you want to call these, I don't like to throw away my little scraps of things that I've done on other pieces, right? So here is an example where I was playing with some metallic threads and some flash thread just to kind of see how it stitches out with different stitches and whatever. And when they look cute, well, I really hate to throw them away. So I applique them onto a piece of fabric like this, and I can put it in my stitch journal. And sometimes it's boring to just stitch things down and applique, right? We want to add some pizzazz. So this was a sample of 12 weight thread that I was experimenting with some decorative stitches. There is spaghetti from Wonderful, that's a 12 weight cotton. And then the green variegated is an Aurifil in 12 weight cotton. So just a way that I can kind of have something cute and kind of see how the different stitches perform, as well as learning about my new machine. Also, I can use these examples as options for what not to do. So if we look at this piece here, it's got some loopies, it's not as pretty. This is a 12 weight rayon and metallic thread that it wasn't stitching out well at all. So then I made some adjustments to tension and things like that, and then it was really pulling the bobbin thread up. It was a nightmare, horrible. Then I decided, you know what, I'm going to try my Wonderfil thread tamer or thread wrangler or whatever, and that fixed it. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to applique this in my book so that I can remember that. And then I use my little Micron Pigma pens in here to jot my information about my different stitches. So with that in mind, let's have a look at some of these cool features of our machines, and let's see how we might have some playtime with some of the decorative stitches and then put them into a book of your own. And remember, my way isn't the only way, and you are free to organize your stitch book however you would like to. Now, as we get ready to stitch out, there's a couple things that I do, and this is just to give our book a little bit more robustness. So I am using fusible woven. I have it on a roll here. This is just a kind of coarsely woven fabric that has fusible stuff on the back, and you iron it onto the back of the fabric. And I love this ledger paper fabric because it allows me to have like little lines to line things up on and things like that if I need reference points. And then also I do it to some of the pieces if I plan on just, kind of using some of my distorted stitches or whatever to do an all over pattern to see how I like that. Other things that you're going to want to use. Looking on the back of this piece, you can see that I have a medium tearaway stabilizer here, and that's kind of good because that's going to give a little bit of stiffiness to your fabric so that when you stitch your decorative stitches, there's no tunneling, there's no puckering, and everything is nice and flat and pretty. So I like to prep what I'm going to be stitching that way. Now, as far as threads go, sky is the limit. If you're new to this, you might want to stick to threads that are 30, 40, 50 weight threads. Isocord is a beautiful thread to be able to create your decorative stitches with. Variegated threads are really fun. And also remember, you might also want to try stitches with different threads because some of them will look better with different types of thread. So let's play at our machine, shall we? So here I'm sitting at my Bernina 990, and I just want to pick something cute from our novelty section, and I found this super cute little kitty. So the first thing with the stitch book is usually you want to stitch it out just like it's intended. And you can see here it's, got a lot of detail on it and everything, and it's almost a shame that it has to be to the confines of just 9 millimeters wide. Don't worry, we're going to work on that. And I stitched out just a few of these, and then once I was done, I decided, let's mirror it, let's play with it, and let's line this up right next to the previous one. So I went into my edit screen, and I flipped my cat so that it's going towards me now instead of away from me. And I tried to line it up on that previous starting point, but, for a stitch book like this, that's not that important. And then I'm going to do about 3 repetitions of these, and then I'm going to do something even more special. So let's have a look at some other things we can do, like our jumbo stitch. Now we can make it a little bit big, a lot big. This is 300% its original size, and I can go all the way up to 500%. But I don't really want to take it that big. So for right now, I'm just going to have it at about 200%, and then I'm going to stitch it out. And so the one thing that you're going to notice as you stitch this out is this is now a multi-direction stitch that's going to kind of move sideways and all the places. And right now you can also see that I'm still using my open toe foot number 20, and this isn't the one that's recommended for multi-direction stitching. We'll look at that foot number 40C in just a moment. So now that I've stitched one out that size, I kind of want to give this stitch a little bit more emphasis. So I want to engage triple stitch, which is right there on my machine, and triple stitch is available on your other Berninas. I also want to turn on my camera so that I can make sure when I align my pieces that my new little kitty isn't going to bump into the other little kitty that I just stitched. So you can see that this stitch is going to show up a little more with this triple stitch engaged. And then, it's hard to not want to look at the camera and then look at my, pieces right down there. This is a new kind of endeavor for us, for sure. And then once this stitch is out, I've got one more little trick up my sleeve. So I'm just going to change out my number 40C foot, and let's look at these two. So the 40C is like a number 1, but the sides are beveled for that sideways motion stitching that we get with our multi-direction stitches, whereas it's a more of a sharp edge there on the number 20C. So let's put the number 40C foot on. And then what I'm going to do is go into my stitch designer, and I want to eliminate these long stitches that you see there that connect the cats together when it was a little stitch. So I'm basically picking this choose multiple nodes. They turn blue when I select them, and then I delete them. Then I'm going to go find stitch number 20 in the sequence and kind of back things up a little bit, get it to where I need to go so that I can double check my little nodes here and eliminate this line. So we just keep going back, 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 back until there are no more nodes to select. And then I'm going to hit the delete button. And now I have a cat without those lines. And now I'm going to just stitch this guy out. Now, I know I'm going really fast through this tutorial, and this isn't really a class on playing with Stitch Designer or whatever. I'm just kind of giving you permission to play, but this little concept that I'm showing you here is going to be a Zoom class that we do here at BERNINA of Naperville, and we're going to have this fall. So we're going to make a little red work inspired pillow using these techniques that you see me doing right here with the Stitch Designer and the jumbo stitches. But for now, I'm just going to stitch this out and see if my stitch designing editing really worked. And it did, and I love it. And yeah, there we go. All right, meow. It passes the test. So don't forget that if you stitch something out and you really love it, you're going to want to save it. And the new 990 allows us to name something that we're saving so that if we want to stitch it out later, in fact, in my case, I want to do something with this for a class in the future. So I'm going to save it right onto my personal folder of my machine. But now I can get rid of that, go back to my standard open toe foot number 20, and use my combination mode to label this page. And this is going to be our jumbo, our triple stitch, and all of that. So I'm writing all of this out as one line of text using this combo stitch and my alphabet. And this is going to be really long. In fact, this might be so long that it might not even fit on my note paper that's here, but I'm going to show you how we handle that. So we're going to put a stop in here. So first I'm just going to line things up to see if I like it on my notepad, but then I'm going to find a spot in my sentence where I think I can add a little stop. So I'm moving that up with my finger. It's so easy, and I put it right after mirror. So then when I stitch my words, and once mirror is done stitching, my machine is going to stop. I can select my thread cutter and just cut. And then it's going to hop on over to that ampersand, and I can finish the rest of my sentence, lining it up in conjunction using my camera like this. And so this is a pretty down and dirty, fun, practical way to use the camera on our 990 as well. And it's just great to have like a little stitch book like this so that we can practice these techniques and become, experts by the time we have to put this on a project. And let's make a standard combination stitch. And I'm just using the satin triangle and the satin bobble. And I want to mirror that last triangle so that it's looking like a right side up triangle. And I think that kind of looks like a little candy wrapper. And at this point, I want to select all. And there's this great new button that's going to adjust the widths of all of those stitches in combi mode. This is a new thing on the Bernina 990. I could also press a button to make the stitch length the same, keeping the density and everything, but that's not exactly what I want. So I can use my undo and get back to where I started, and that's exactly what I want. All of those stitches the same width. But now I want to do something a little bit different. I want to add 3 straight stitches in between so I look like I have little candies on a string when I'm stitching out. And I want to stitch this out, but I might want to make other adjustments on the stitch as well. But it's always good to just do a pass first to see how you like it. And in this application, I'm using Aurifil variegated cotton 50 weight thread. And I probably would have had better success with the way it looked if I would have used a solid fabric to stitch this on. But let's remember, these are all just tests. So I have a row, and it's okay. It's not knocking my socks off or anything, okay? So I want to do a little trick here. I want to actually adjust my stitch length. I want the length to be a little bit closer together. And I'm going to go to my new selection button where it allows me to select one thing at a time in my combi mode. See that? And now I can use my bottom knob to adjust the length, and it's simply adjusting the length of only my little candy wrapper pieces there. And so I'm going to make it a little bit closer together than the default setting. The default was white, so I want to go less than 7 there. So we're going to start here and see what we think. All right, it's a little bit closer together, but I think we can do better. So along the same lines as adjusting our stitch length, we can also do some other things. So I just made the stitch length go a little bit closer together on this 3rd row that I'm stitching out. You can see that. But now I think I want to adjust the width just a little bit. So I go back and select all of my pieces in my candy, but not my 3 straight stitches. And now I'm just going to adjust my width a little bit closer together. And now I think I'm going to have a keeper with this one. And then sometimes when I do this, like I said, I'm not trying to set the world on fire with this, but I want to indicate that this is a test. So I've added some fusible web onto the back of my TV fabric, and I'm going to applique this test screen here to know that this was playtime and I was just testing something out. So I'm going to press this, peel the paper away, and place it on my piece. And then I'm just going to applique this with a straight stitch. But it gives me an opportunity not only to use the camera on my Bernina 990, but also to use the laser so I can see exactly where my needle's going to land on this piece. So using that camera and the laser together is an amazing treat for work like this. And when the needle goes up, the little laser light shows, and it really allows me to be very accurate with my top stitching. So once I've done enough for a book, I'm going to take 2 of my pages, wrong sides together, and I'm going to zigzag around the edges. And I just want to make sure I get that zigzag edge right up to the edge of my fabric. And stitch around. And I don't mind if there's a little bit of threads hanging out or whatever, because I like kind of the rawness of this book, but you can do it as polished as you'd like. You can also go around all 4 edges of the book if you like, but I just did the 3 edges because one of them's going to be hidden in the spine piece. And so here's an example of 4 pages or, 2 pages once they're stitched, sewn with our spine. So we're going to take a 2.5-inch strip of fabric that's have some of the fusible woven in it. And this is about 17 inches by 2.5 inches, like I said. And you're going to sew the short ends together and press them open. And you're going to take the long edges and press those over 1/4 inch. And then I like to take the piece and fold it right on that seam line and fold it in half and give it a good pressing. And that seam is going to go at the bottom of the book. And so that's our spine of our book. And you might need to adjust this depending on the size that you cut your pages. Obviously, if it's a little longer than necessary, it works fine. But if it's shorter, then you don't want to squeeze your pages in there. So we're putting our pages in both ends of that spine like that. And then I just used a zigzag stitch to complete the pages. So I got back to my machine, inserted my pages. I still have that number 20 open toe foot on, and I have my zigzag stitch at the default setting. I also kept my laser light on so I could see what's happening here, and I'm stitching down the spine. And then we're simply going to insert the other side in, and we're going to repeat the process, stitching a zigzag over that folded edge of our spine. And then once those are together, I'm going to make my cover for my stitch book. And that stitch journal I stitched with the Hand of Sean font on my 990. And the decorative stitch or the applique stitch is just one of these little Xy stitches. And if you watch our original stitch book video, you'll see that I show you how to use these stitches to do the applique. I also use this stitch when we do our decorative stitch postcards, which I also gave you a link to in the presentation deck that you can find in the description of this video. I like to slow down on the corners, so I make sure I stop at just the right spot. And now I'm changing my needle to 100 top stitch needle. And that's simply because I need, some power to go through all of the layers on the spine of this book. And my layers of my book have been perfectly placed on top of each other. And I'm using number 6 triple straight stitch to just blast down the middle of this spine to hold all of my pages together. But you want to make sure that you've lined these up perfectly so that when you look at your book, your pages are even and everything. It might take you a couple of tries. And then once you get to the end, your book's complete and you can admire your work. Just be sure to double stitch when you get to the end. All right, I hope you found a lot of information in this, and I hope that if anything, you save some of those little scraps that you stitch, because sometimes it can trigger the old noodle into thinking of some new things or some old things that you forgot that you knew that you wanted to add into a new project. And don't forget, it's never too late to sign up for our Fat Quarter Club, and there's no commitment whatsoever. You sign up, we send you the Fat Quarter pack, and then the next Fat Quarter of the month invoice comes in and you're like, I don't think I'm feeling it this month. So if you don't pay the invoice, you don't get Fat Quarters. But it's no obligation to buy every month. So check that out. And also, while you're checking things out, check out our BERNINA of Naperville YouTube channel. There's lots of tutorials. I think we're over 500 now. And then while you're there, if you could please like, subscribe, comment, all of those good things, it would be wonderful. We'd love to hear from you. So until next time, have fun playing with your new machine or your treasured old one. Bye.